Question 1. A developer who wishes to sell subdivided lots from his subdivision located in the middle of a city must first A. Provide buyers with a copy of the Real Estate Commissioner's final report on the subdivision. B. Obtain a signature from the buyer verifying his receipt of the report. C. Provide the city with his financial statements dating back 10 years. D. Both A and B. Correct answer is D. Both A and B. The Subdivided Lands Law requires, among other things, that the Commissioner's report be furnished to customers, with their signatures verifying receipt. This report, also known as a public report, discloses vital information about the subdivision for potential buyers. It includes details like developer information, infrastructure details, roads, utilities, financial arrangements for improvements, homeowners association information, if applicable, potential assessments or fees. These requirements help protect consumers by ensuring they have access to crucial information before entering into a purchase agreement for a lot in the subdivision. The law does not apply to subdivisions located in a city if the subdivision has no common area, nor does it apply to subdivisions located in unincorporated areas. Question 2. While working with a subdivided property for which the Commissioner's preliminary public report has been issued, a real estate agent can A. Accept a listing for the property. B. Accept a purchase offer and take a deposit. C. Lease the property without selling it. D. Accept an exclusive listing without a termination date since it is uncertain how much time will be needed to sell all the lots. Correct answer is A. Accept a listing for the property. According to the question, taking a listing is the only one of the actions described in the answers that could be performed by a licensee. Before a final public report is issued, an agent cannot accept an offer with a deposit nor lease or sell the property. Of course, under no circumstances can he take an exclusive listing without a termination date. Question 3. If a real estate agent commits an act violating the real estate law, the Real Estate Commissioner can discipline the agent for the violation up until A. The agent moves to another state. B. 3 years after the violation. C. The agent's license expires. D. Never. There is no time limit on the Commissioner meting out discipline for a wrongful act. Correct answer is B. 3 years after the violation. The real estate law places a limitation of 3 years after the violation is committed. Question 4. A real estate agent did not mention to a client that the property he was being shown had been built near a major ground fissure, and was subject to frequent earthquakes. The client made an offer on the property, and put down a deposit. If the prospective purchaser then finds out about the earthquake issue, he can A. Ask for the contract offer to be rescinded. B. Report the lack of disclosure to the State Attorney General. C. Ask for a novation of the contract. D. The offer must be honored by the buyer. Correct answer is A. Ask for the contract offer to be rescinded. A buyer who enters into an agreement after the lack of disclosure of a material fact, or based on other misinformation, has cause for the contract to be rescinded. That would cause the contract to be terminated and his deposit refunded. Question 5. A deposit on a real property transaction can never belong to A. Broker. B. Seller. C. Buyer. D. None of the above. Correct answer is A. Broker. Deposit funds can never belong to a broker, under the laws of agency. Question 6. Which of the following relationships create a fiduciary responsibility? A. Seller's broker to the seller. B. Trustee to his beneficiary. C. Buyer's agent to the buyer. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. The choices all describe a relationship between an agent and her principal. Question 7. The following statements are true about VA loans, except A. A veteran's VA loan is assumable only by another veteran. B. A veteran's particular guaranteed loan amount is called her entitlement. Circa a veteran's guarantee rights are reinstated if he sells the property with the VA loan, then repays the loan in full from the proceeds of the sale. DVA underwriters rely on the debt-to-income ratio to assess if a veteran meets qualifying standards for a loan. Correct answer is A. A veteran's VA loan is assumable only by another veteran. If a non-veteran assumes a VA loan, the original owner remains responsible for the loan in the event of bankruptcy or foreclosure. But if the new buyer is a veteran, they can transfer their VA status to the seller so that the seller can be cleared to purchase another home, using the VA status. Question 8. A Florida resident who is the owner of property in California dies while vacationing in New York. Where will the property be probated? A. New York. B. California. C. Florida. D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. California. Property is generally probated in the state where it is located regardless of the owner's legal residence or place of death. Question 9. Which of the following is responsible for periodic inspections of an apartment building? A. Tenant. B. Owner. C. Maintenance chief. D. Property manager. Correct answer is D. Property manager. It is one of the primary responsibilities of the property manager to regularly inspect the property for upkeep and maintenance. Question 10. When a written instrument signed by a person names someone else to act legally for him, that named person is called an A. Sub-agent. B. Licensee. C. Attorney in fact. D. Paralegal. Correct answer is C. Attorney in fact. The signed, written instrument naming the attorney in fact is called a power of attorney. Question 11. If a property seller asked his broker about the religious background of a potential purchaser, the broker A. should provide the seller with the requested information, as long as he also warns the seller that it cannot be used to discriminate against the buyer, that the information may not be used to discriminate against the buyer. B. Must refuse to provide the requested information. C. Should ask the buyer's broker for permission to reveal that information to the seller. D. It is the broker's duty to the seller to reveal all material facts such as the buyer's religion. Correct answer is B. Must refuse to provide the requested information. For a broker to give out such information to a client regarding a buyer's religion is a clear violation of the California Fair Housing Act, aka the Rumford Act. Such information is not a material fact by any means. Question 12. Which institution originated as a federal agency in 1938 with the purpose of providing a secondary market for FHA-insured loans? A. Freddie Mac. B. Fannie Mae. C. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. D. Bureau of Real Estate. Correct answer is B. Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae, established in 1938 as a federal agency, Fannie Mae, Federal National Mortgage Association, was created to provide liquidity in the mortgage market by purchasing FHA-insured loans from lenders. This allowed lenders to free up capital and originate more mortgages, ultimately increasing access to homeownership. Question 13. A listing contract establishes a fiduciary relationship between the broker and A. Seller. B. Buyer. C. Seller and buyer. D. Seller, buyer, and broker's agent. Correct answer is A. Seller. A listing involves the broker and seller, with the broker in a fiduciary relationship to the seller. Question 14. The parallel boards used to support the load of the floor and ceiling are called A. Studs. B. Joists. C. Sole plates. D. Exterior sheathing. Correct answer is B. Joists. Joists are horizontal structural members that provide support for the floor and ceiling from the walls or beams. They run parallel to each other and distribute the weight of the floor or ceiling to the load-bearing walls or structures below. Studs are upright piece of wood, a vertical board in a wall that is part of the building's frame. Sole plates are horizontal boards that form the bottom part of a wall frame and provide a nailing surface for the studs to be attached. Exterior sheathing refers to the layer of material attached to the exterior side of wall studs. It provides protection from the elements and a base for exterior cladding like siding. Question 15. A grant deed contains A. Contains the word grant in its conveyance. B. Contains a guarantee that the property title has not been conveyed to anyone else. C. Contains a guarantee that there are no hidden encumbrances on the property. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. The grantor also conveys to the grantee any rights he might acquire to the property after conveying it to the grantee, termed as after-acquired title. The grant deed is the only form of deed that conveys an after-acquired title. Question 16. The maximum duration of a farm-related lease is A. 10 years, B. 25 years, C. 51 years, D. There is no maximum limit. Correct answer is C. 51 years. No lease or grant of land for agricultural or horticultural purposes is valid for a longer period than 51 years. CA Civil Code Section 717. Question 17. A promissory note that requires interest payments only through the note's term is called an A. Straight note, B. Amortized note, C. Short-term note, D. Adjustable rate mortgage. Correct answer is A. Straight note. Straight note requires the borrower to repay only the interest on the loan during the term of the note. At the end of the term, the borrower makes a single lump sum payment to repay the principal amount in full. An amortized note spreads the repayment of the loan amount, principal, and interest over the entire loan term through equal monthly payments. Short-term note refers to a maturity period of less than 1 year. While short-term notes can be straight notes, it's not a defining characteristic. Adjustable rate mortgage, ARM, is a type of long-term loan where the interest rate can fluctuate periodically based on a benchmark index. It's not relevant to the interest payment structure during the term. In conclusion, a straight note is specifically designed for interest-only payments throughout the term, with the principal due as a lump sum at the end. Question 18. Emblements are A. Real property that grows on the land of the property owner. B. Personal property of the person who grew them. C. Real property that is tended by a group of people, such as a community garden. D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. Personal property of the person who grew them. Emblements are an exception to the general rule that things attached to real estate become part of the real estate. Because they are cultivated and require ongoing human effort, they are considered personal property of the person who grew them. Annual crops such as corn and tomatoes are termed emblements, categorized as the personal property of the grower. Trees and grass do not require annual planting, and so are real property belonging to the property owner. Question 19. A father leaves his estate, Blackacre, to his 16-year-old son in a will. The minor son can A. Acquire the property if he obtains court approval. B. Acquire the property. C. Cannot acquire property under any circumstances. D. Can only share the property with a legal adult as co-owner. Correct answer is B. Acquire the property. Real property can be acquired by a minor without court intervention. Question 20. Which of the following would likely be an implied covenant in a lease? A. Warranty of habitability. B. Right of termination. C. Term of duration. D. Amount of rent. Correct answer is A. Warranty of habitability. Residential leases are said to include a warranty of habitability as an implied covenant. This warranty requires landlords to keep their property habitable, even if the lease does not specifically require them to make repairs. Question 21. A person with a spouse and 3 children dies intestate. Her separate property would be divided. A. Equal shares between her spouse and their children. B. 1/3 to her spouse and 2/3 to their children. C. The spouse inherits all the property, then can decide what to transfer to the children. D. An intestate person's assets all go to the state. Correct answer is B. 1/3 to her spouse and 2/3 to their children. In California, if a person with a spouse and children dies without a will, the surviving spouse receives all community property and half of the separate property if there is only one child. If there are 2 or more children, the spouse receives 1/3 of the separate property, and the children receive the remaining 2/3. Separate property is any property acquired before marriage, or property received as a gift or inheritance that is not considered community property. Question 22. Regarding the National Do Not Call Registry for consumers who wish to block calls from telemarketers, real estate agents can still legally call listed persons if the agent A. has had a previous business relationship with the listed person, within 18 months or less, B. is calling within 90 days of an inquiry by the listed person, C. has received written consent from the listed person, D. all of the above. Correct answer is D. all of the above. Businesses do not receive protection from calls by the registry, while even listed residences can still be called by political organizations and bill collectors. Question 23. It is a good idea for a listing interview to be A. personalized for each property, B. the same for every property, C. focus on the licensee, D. focus on the commission terms. Correct answer is A. personalized for each property. A broker should ask at least as many questions from the property owner as he answers, fostering the consultative approach that works best for acquiring and servicing a listing. Question 24. The acronym HELOC refers to A. House Enterprise Lockout Clause, B. Home Equity Line of Credit, C. Housing Estate Location Organization Credit, D. Homeland Event Life Owned Company. Correct answer is B. Home Equity Line of Credit. Like a traditional mortgage, a HELOC is a line of credit taken out against real estate or available real estate equity. Unlike a traditional mortgage, HELOC borrowers are advanced sums up to the maximum withdrawal amount originally approved by the lender. Question 25. When a new party is substituted for an existing party in an agreement, it is called an A. assignment, B. novation, C. liquidation, D. contract dischargement. Correct answer is A. assignment. Unlike assignment, novation cannot be performed without the consent of all the parties. Question 26. A purchase agreement contract may be amended by A. broker or a principal, B. broker or an escrow agent, C. principal only, D. broker only. Correct answer is C. principal only. Contract revisions can only be made by a principal. Question 27. Nancy has a large tree on her front lawn whose roots, over the years, have spread onto her neighbor's lawn. The neighbor can sue Nancy on the grounds of A. reliction, B. encroachment, C. nuisance, D. covenant. Correct answer is B. encroachment. Encroachment is a trespass onto another's property without consent, such as creation of a building, dividing wall, driveway or shrub. In this case, the roots of Nancy's tree have grown into the neighbor's lawn, constituting an encroachment. Reliction applies to a gradual and permanent loss of land due to natural causes, such as erosion. It wouldn't be relevant to tree roots growing into a neighbor's lawn. A nuisance could be a possibility if the tree roots cause significant damage to the neighbor's property beyond simply being present. However, encroachment is the more specific legal term for a physical intrusion onto another's property. Covenants are restrictions or promises included in a deed that limit the use of the property. There's no indication that a covenant is involved here. Question 28. A unlicensed subdivider may perform all of the following activities, except A. hire a real estate salesperson to sell lots in the subdivision, B. hire a real estate broker to set up a sales office to sell lots in the subdivision, C. hire a publicity agent to promote the subdivision, D. buy the land adjoining the subdivision in order to block a competitor. Correct answer is B. hire a real estate broker to set up a sales office to sell lots in the subdivision. Someone who is not a licensed real estate broker cannot hire a salesperson to perform duties for which a real estate broker license is mandatory. Unlicensed subdividers cannot directly sell or offer to sell lots. However, they can hire licensed professionals like salespeople or brokers to handle those activities. and they can engage in other peripheral actions like promotion through publicity agents or buying adjoining land. Question 29. The maximum amount paid from the recovery account to victims of real estate fraud is for any one transaction. A. $25,000. B. $50,000. C. $100,000. D. There is no maximum limitation on recovery account awards. Correct answer is B. $50,000. A real estate recovery account is a fund that provides financial compensation to victims of real estate professionals who have acted fraudulently or unscrupulously and are unable to pay back lost money. The account is funded by a portion of real estate license fees and fines collected by the Department of Real Estate, DRE. In California, the Consumer Recovery Account allows a person to recover up to $50,000 per transaction and $250,000 per licensee if they have been defrauded by a real estate licensee and the licensee does not have enough personal assets to pay for the loss. To be eligible, the victim must have won a judgment in court and be unable to collect from the guilty party because they are bankrupt, deceased, insolvent. If the fund pays a judgment against a licensee, the licensee's license will be suspended until they repay the amount paid by the fund, plus interest. Question 30. The following are requirements for the forming of an easement by implication. A. It must be necessary for the enjoyment of the property. B. There should be an obvious prior use. C. Both A and B. D. Neither A nor B. Correct answer is C. Both A and B. Easement by implication is an unwritten form of easement, originating from the subdivision of land for continual, obvious use of the adjacent land, such as access to a road, or to a water source. Question 31. The holder of a note secured by a trust deed and entitled to the performance of all provisions in the trust deed is the A. Truster, B. Beneficiary, C. Trustee, D. Mortgager. Correct answer is B. Beneficiary. The beneficiary is the lender authorized to obtain performance of the trust deed provisions. Question 32. FHA-insured loans. A. May be assumable. B. May never be assumable. C. Are limited to 1% of an applicant's income. D. Are no longer made available to veterans without at least 5 years of military service. Correct answer is A. May be assumable. While almost all conventional mortgage loans made after 1980 are not assumable, most FHA loans can be assumed if the buyer is approved. An assumable mortgage is a type of home financing arrangement where an outstanding mortgage and its terms are transferred from the current owner to the buyer. By assuming the previous owner's remaining debt, the buyer can avoid obtaining their own mortgage. USDA, FHA, and VA loans are assumable when certain criteria are met. Question 33. A house's second-floor balcony juts out from the building into the airspace of the adjoining property. It is called an A. License. B. Easement and gross. C. Encroachment. D. Fixture. Correct answer is C. Encroachment. When an improvement extends over a boundary lines between properties, it is called an encroachment. Fences are a typical form of encroachment. Question 34. Tenant Tom has a year-long lease expire, but wishes to stay in his apartment. So, he continues to send rent checks to his landlord. Until the landlord moves to evict Tom, A exists. A. Tenancy at will. B. Tenancy at sufferance. C. Tenancy in common. D. No tenancy exists, the lease has expired. Correct answer is B. Tenancy at sufferance. This type of tenancy involves a tenant's wrongful refusal to leave at the end of a specified lease period. During a tenancy at sufferance, the tenant is bound by the terms of the lease, including payment of rent, which existed before it expired. The only difference between a tenancy at sufferance and a tenancy at will is that the one at will was created by agreement. Question 35. An appraiser would use which of the following for a comparative market analysis, CMA? A. Current listings. B. Homes recently sold. C. Listings recently expired. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Also called a competitive market analysis, the CMA is prepared by agents for home sellers to help establish the fair market sales price of a property. It takes into account recent property sales, currently listed properties, and properties that have gone off the market, all within the same neighborhood, with similar characteristics to the client's property. Question 36. A lessee was given a 30-day notice to terminate a periodic tenancy by the landlord. However, the lessee failed to vacate the property at the end of the 30 days. Which of the following is now true? A. There is a tenancy at sufferance. B. The landlord could begin the ejectment process. C. If the landlord accepts and cashes the tenant's rent checks, then a new periodic tenancy would result. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. A tenant in sufferance, as in this scenario, originally takes possession of a property with a valid lease but continues as a holdover after the lease has expired. The landlord can legally move to eject the tenant. If the landlord accepts the renter's check, however, then a new periodic tenancy will be created. Question 37. Berry Bros, a strawberry farm, agrees to sell all the berries it harvests to Smoothie City, a company that makes non-fat smoothie drinks, if Smoothie City promises to buy all the strawberries it uses from Berry Bros. Before signing the contract, Berry Bros asks to insert a term that it can cancel the agreement at any time without notice. If this no-notice term is included in the contract, then the contract will be A. Valid, because both parties agree to the terms. B. Void, because Berry Bros' promise is illusory. C. Void, because it violates the UCC. D. Both B and C. Correct answer is D. Both B and C. If Berry Bros can terminate the contract without notice, it means that they have not limited their options for the future. So, Berry Bros' promise is illusory, a promise given as consideration that does not actually obligate it to anything. Also, the UCC requires that reasonable notification must be provided before termination of a contract if its enforcement would be unconscionable. A contract which is so outrageous or immoral that it shocks the court's sensibility. A cancellation of its berry supply with no notice could put Smoothie City out of business, an unconscionable result. Question 38. Net income shows up in which kind of statement? A. Escrow closing statement. B. Profit and loss statement. C. Capital expenditures statement. D. Loan application statement. Correct answer is B. Profit and loss statement. Net income is also referred to as net profit or net earnings. Net income is a financial metric that represents the overall profitability of a business during a specific accounting period. It's calculated by subtracting all the business's expenses from its total revenue. Question 39. Which of the following individuals can lawfully enter into a binding contract to buy property? A. A ward of the court. B. A foreign investor. C. An unemancipated minor. D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. A foreign investor. A ward of the court is someone under the court's care and may have limitations on their ability to enter into contracts, especially regarding property. They might need court approval for such transactions. An unemancipated minor is a person under age 21 who has never been married or who has been married but had the marriage annulled, and who remains under the control of his parents, whether or not he or she lives with them. Unemancipated minors typically cannot enter into binding contracts by self, including those involving property purchase. Foreign investors can generally purchase property in the United States, and their contracts to buy property would be considered lawful, assuming they meet other legal requirements, e.g., following money laundering regulations. Question 40. The Veterans Administration does not make loans. Instead, it loans make by an approved institutional lender. A. Finances. B. Assigns. C. Guarantees. D. Recovers. Correct answer is C. Guarantees. The VA does not set a cap on how much eligible veterans can borrow to finance their home. There are, though, limits on the degree of liability the VA will assume. which impacts the amount of the loan that an institution will approve. Question 41. Dave promises that he will give Sam dinner every night if Sam promises to come over every morning and walk Dave's dog, to which Sam agrees. Dave and Sam have an A. bilateral contract, B. unilateral contract, C. agreement to contract, D. option contract. Correct answer is A. bilateral contract. A unilateral contract involves a promise by one party in exchange for the performance of an act by the other party. Here, both Dave and Sam make promises, so it's not unilateral. Agreement to contract refers to a preliminary agreement to negotiate a future contract. It doesn't involve the exchange of promises that creates a binding contract. An option contract gives one party the right, but not the obligation, to buy something from another party within a specific time frame. This scenario doesn't involve an option to buy anything. Bilateral contract is a type of contract where both parties make promises to each other. In this case, Dave promises dinner every night, and Sam promises to walk the dog every morning. Both parties have obligations and both receive something of value. A bilateral contract is formed because both Dave and Sam make promises to each other, creating mutual obligations and a binding agreement. Question 42. An agency relationship is established by the following, except A. ratification, B. agreement, C. estoppel, D. title report. Correct answer is D. title report. Ratification is when a principal approves an act performed by someone else, the agent, on their behalf, even if there wasn't prior authorization. Ratification can establish an agency relationship. An agreement between the principal and the agent outlining the scope of the agency is a key element of establishing an agency relationship. Estoppel is a legal doctrine prevents someone from denying something they previously indicated through their words or actions. In agency law, estoppel can apply if a principal's conduct leads a third party to believe someone is their agent, creating an agency relationship by implication. A title report is a document that researches the ownership history of a property and identifies any potential liens or encumbrances. While a title report is important in real estate transactions, it doesn't directly establish an agency relationship. Question 43. All of the following about an estate for years is true, except it. A. automatically terminates when the lease term expires, with no notice required from either party. B. must have a term lasting at least a year. C. must have a fixed term. D. it can only be established by express agreement. Correct answer is B. must have a term lasting at least a year. An estate for years, aka a term tenancy, belies its name by having no requirement for a term of a year or more, just for a definite duration. Question 44. Joe bought a building for $550,000. The yearly net income produced by the building is $65,000. Calculate the rate of return for Joe. A. 0.15, B. 1.18%, C. 11.82%, D. The rate of return cannot be calculated from the question. Correct answer is C. 11.82%. $65,000 divided by $550,000 equals 11.82%. Question 45. In 1968, the United States Supreme Court decided a case regarding fair and open housing, which upheld the Civil Rights Act passed by Congress in A. 1964, B. 1941, C. 1866, D. 1850. Correct answer is A. 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed by Congress on July 2, 1964, and signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson shortly after. The act is considered a landmark civil rights and labor law in the United States, and is considered one of the most significant legislative achievements in American history. The act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. In the 1968 case, Jones v. Mayer, the court held that federal law bars all racial discrimination, private or public, in the sale or rental of real property. Question 46. Private restrictions on land use may be established by A. Written agreement, B. Private land use controls, C. Subdivision general plan restrictions, D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Written agreement could be in the form of a servitude agreement between two or more property owners, where one property benefits from a limitation placed on the other property's use. For example, a servitude might grant an easement for access across a neighboring property. Private land use controls can be established through restrictive covenants, which are limitations on property use written into deeds or other property documents. Restrictive covenants are often used in subdivisions to maintain consistency and property values. For example, a covenant might specify minimum square footage requirements for new homes in the subdivision. Subdivision general plan restrictions. While general plans are typically public documents outlining development goals for a broader area, some subdivisions might have their own internal general plan that sets forth restrictions specific to the subdivision. These restrictions could be considered a form of private land use control. Question 47. The kind of mortgage requiring no loan payments by the owners while remaining in the house is called an A. Reverse mortgage, B. Live-in loan, C. ARM, D. No such mortgage exists. Payments must continue to be made throughout the life of a loan. Correct answer is A. Reverse mortgage. Reverse mortgage is a specific type of loan designed for senior homeowners. It allows them to access the equity they have built up in their homes without having to make traditional monthly mortgage payments. Instead, the lender advances funds to the borrower, which are typically repaid, with interest, when the borrower sells the house, moves out, or passes away. Question 48. If the president of a corporation signs a listing agreement on behalf of the corporation with a broker, and the president dies a month later before a property is procured, the listing is A. Invalidated, B. Suspended until a new president is chosen, C. Valid, D. Voidable. Correct answer is C. Valid. The president's death is an unfortunate event, but it doesn't necessarily invalidate the listing agreement itself. The corporation, as the legal entity that signed the agreement, is still bound by its terms. The corporation might need to appoint a new representative to handle the sale, but the listing agreement with the broker remains valid unless other conditions for termination are met, e.g., expiration of the listing period, mutual agreement to cancel. Question 49. Taxpayers can exclude up to $250,000 of the gain on the sale of their principal residence if they can meet the following requirements. A. Own the home for at least 2 years. B. Lived in the home as their main home for at least 2 years. C. During the 2-year period ending on the date of the sale, did not exclude gain from the sale of another home. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. To qualify for the capital gains exclusion on the sale of a principal residence, taxpayers must meet all of the following requirements. 1. Owned the home for at least 2 years. The taxpayer must have owned the property for at least 24 months. 2. Lived in the home as their main home for at least 2 years. The property must have been the taxpayer's main residence for at least 24 months during the 5-year period ending on the sale date. 3. During the 2-year period ending on the date of the sale, did not exclude gain from the sale of another home. The taxpayer cannot have used the capital gains exclusion on another property sale within the 2-year period before selling their current principal residence. Question 50. Private mortgage insurance, PMI, is usually required for conventional loans with down payments of A. Less than 20%, B. Less than 35%, C. Less than 40%, D. PMI is required for all conventional loans. Correct answer is A. Less than 20%. Private mortgage insurance, PMI, insulates lenders against the risk of default by a borrower. PMI is typically required for conventional loans, where the borrower makes a down payment of less than 20% of the purchase price. Question 51. If a purchaser believes his written purchase agreement has been breached by the seller, it is necessary to sue for breach within A. 1 year, B. 4 years, C. 7 years, D. There is no deadline to sue. Correct answer is B. 4 years. The time limit imposed by the statute of limitations for a lawsuit regarding breach of a written contract is 4 years from the breach. Question 52. In order for someone to be released from liability for payment of a trust deed and a note, he must find a buyer who will A. Take title to the trust deed, as is, B. Pay cash for the trust deed, C. Assume the trust deed and note liability, D. Execute a release agreement for the trust deed and note. Correct answer is C. Assume the trust deed and note liability. This is the most common way for a borrower to be released from a trust deed and note. By finding a buyer who agrees to take over the loan obligations, becoming the new borrower. The original borrower can potentially be released from further responsibility, depending on the specific terms of the loan documents and applicable laws. Question 53. In order to be valid, the following agreements would be required by the statute of frauds to be in writing, except A. An agreement to sell a parcel of land, B. Two real estate brokers' agreement to split a commission for the sale of their co-listed property, circa a tenant's 2-year lease for an apartment, D. An agreement authorizing a broker to earn a commission for procuring a buyer for a client's home. Correct answer is B. Two real estate brokers' agreement to split a commission for the sale of their co-listed property. The statute of frauds generally applies to contracts for the sale of real estate and agreements authorizing brokers to earn commissions for selling real estate. However, agreements between brokers regarding commission splits are usually not covered by the statute of frauds. Question 54. Sandra owned a lot with an appurtenant easement across Jerry's property. If Sandra sells her property to Ellen, without mentioning the easement in the deed of conveyance, the easement A. passed to Ellen, the new owner, B. went with Sandra, the old owner, C. reverted to Jerry, owner of the servient tenement, D. either A or C, at the discretion of the county recorder. Correct answer is A. passed to Ellen, the new owner. An appurtenant easement is a legal right that allows someone to use another person's property for a specific purpose, and is attached to the land it benefits. It's a type of easement that involves two adjacent properties, known as the dominant estate and the servient estate. When Sandra sells his property, dominant tenement, the easement appurtenant automatically transfers to the new owner, Ellen. She inherits the rights granted by the easement, such as access or use of Jerry's property, servient tenement. If it had instead been an easement in gross belonging to Jerry, or personal easement, the benefit would indeed have ended with the sale of Jerry's property to a new owner. Question 55. The Consumer Recovery Account is funded by A. State Legislature, B. Real estate license fees, C. HUD, D. Charitable contributions. Correct answer is B. Real estate license fees. The Consumer Recovery Account enables persons who were defrauded by real estate licensees to recover some of those losses. It is administered by the DRE. Question 56. In wood frame homes, the parallel boards that are used to support the load of the floor and the ceiling are called A. Rafters, B. Internal sheathing, C. Girders, D. Joists. Correct answer is D. Joists. In wood frame homes, joists are the horizontal structural members that support the floor and ceiling loads. They run parallel to each other and rest on beams or walls. Rafters are typically angled members that slope from the ridge of a roof down to the eaves, providing support for the roof structure. Sheathing is the layer of material, usually plywood or oriented strand board, that is attached to the exterior walls, internal walls and roof rafters of a house. It provides a surface for exterior siding and helps brace the frame against wind forces. Girders are larger beams that span long distances to support heavier loads than joists. They can be used to support floor joists, walls, or other structural elements. Question 57. A leasehold estate is A. Chattel real, B. Real property, C. Personal property, D. Both A and C. Correct answer is D. Both A and C. Although a lessee has an interest in real property, the estate is in the form of personal property. Chattel real is another way of referring to personal property. Question 58. Mrs. Johnson, a widow, dies, leaving a life estate in her home to her brother Ben and the remainder to her only son, David. Ben planned to move into the house. However, David was currently residing there and did not want to move out. Can David remain in the home even if Ben does not agree? A. Yes, since David was Mrs. Johnson's son. B. Yes, David was left a remainder, which means he is entitled to stay in one room of the house. C. No, David has no right to live there against Ben's wishes, until Ben dies. D. No, David has lost his right to ever live in the house. Correct answer is C. No, David has no right to live there against Ben's wishes, until Ben dies. Life estate gives Ben the right to possess and use the property during his lifetime. Remainder means David has a future interest in the property, but it doesn't give him the right to reside there against Ben's wishes. This means Ben has the right to live in the property, rent it out, or even sell it. Although the sale proceeds would be divided with David, who holds the remainder interest. David's inheritance of the remainder simply means he becomes the full owner of the house once the life estate ends, when Ben passes away. David's options. 1. David can negotiate with Ben to potentially stay in the house by paying rent or coming to some other agreement. 2. David can choose to move out and wait until Ben's life estate ends to inherit the property. Question 59. Borrower Barry did not repay a secured loan as agreed, and lender Lawrence foreclosed by filing a lawsuit against Barry in the county court where the property was located. The court found in Lawrence's favor, issued a decree of foreclosure and ordered a sale of the property to be held to satisfy the debt. This is called a fire sale, B. Sheriff's sale, C. Foreclosure sale, D. Deed sale. Correct answer is B. Sheriff's sale. A sheriff's sale can be one way a foreclosure sale is conducted. The sheriff acts as the court's officer and carries out the sale according to the foreclosure decree. While the foreclosure is still pending, the borrower can still cure the default by paying the past due amount, plus legal fees, and regain the property. This is called reinstatement. Question 60. A historical society hires appraiser Andrew to gauge the value of its majestic domed meeting house, built in 1876. In applying the cost method of appraisal, Andrew is most likely to use the building's A. Reproduction cost, B. Replacement cost, C. Both A and B. D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. Replacement cost. Replacement cost is the current cost of building a property with utilities equal to the subject property, i.e. a building usable in the same way as the subject property. Reproduction cost relates to what it would cost to build an exact duplicate of the subject property at current prices. If the subject property is a new home, then reproduction cost and replacement cost may be the same. If, as in this case, the building is older and was elaborately constructed with expensive materials, reproduction cost is an unreliable indicator of value. Question 61. In order to be valid, a trust deed must include a provision requiring the trustor to A. Keep the property in good repair, B. Maintain insurance for property, C. Remain current on all tax and assessment payments for the property, D. None of the above. Correct answer is D. None of the above. A trust deed typically includes 1. Identification of the parties involved, trustor, beneficiary, trustee. 2. Description of the property. 3. Loan amount and repayment terms. 4. Conditions of default, events that could trigger foreclosure. 5. Assignment of title, how title is held during the loan term. A trust deed serves as a security instrument for the lender. It doesn't generally dictate the borrower's maintenance or financial obligations related to the property. These responsibilities might be outlined elsewhere, such as in loan agreements or separate disclosures. Question 62. Which of the following most closely resembles the relationship between a seller and a broker? A. Broker and salesman. B. Trustee and beneficiary. C. Mortgager and mortgagee. D. Vendor and vendee. Correct answer is B. Trustee and beneficiary. A broker is the agent and a seller is the principal for whom the broker works. A trustee is also an agent, working for the beneficiary, the principal. On the other hand, the broker-salesman relationship is like the one between employer and employee. The mortgager and mortgagee is like a borrower-lender. And vendor-vendee is akin to a seller and buyer. Question 63. The major differences between the exclusive authorization and right to sell listing and the exclusive agency listing are A. With the exclusive agency listing, the broker is entitled to a commission even if the owner sells the property himself. B. With an exclusive authorization and right to sell listing, the broker is entitled to a commission even if the owner sells the property himself. C. With the exclusive agency listing, the broker is not entitled to a commission if the owner sells the property himself. D. Both B and C. Correct answer is D. Both B and C. The exclusive authorization and right to sell agency listing is clearly the more desirable arrangement for the real estate professional since it renders disputes irrelevant regarding who was the procuring cause of the sale. Question 64. Which is the most accurate definition of a fee simple absolute? A. An estate for life. B. Highest and most complete type of land ownership. C. Estate for years. D. Defeasible fee. Correct answer is B. Highest and most complete type of land ownership. Estate for life grants someone the right to possess and use a property for their lifetime, or the lifetime of another designated person. A fee simple absolute conveys complete ownership, not limited to a lifespan. Estate for years refers to ownership for a specific period, like a lease agreement. A fee simple absolute grants ownership in perpetuity, forever. Defeasible fee is a type of ownership with conditions that could cause the estate to revert to the grantor or another party if specific events occur. A fee simple absolute has no such limitations. A fee simple absolute represents absolute ownership of land, so the owner may do whatever she chooses with the land. When an owner of a fee simple dies without a will, the land descends to the heirs. Question 65. To establish an agency relationship between a principal and broker, the most important component is the A. Offer. B. Property description. C. Commission agreement. D. Written employment contract. Correct answer is D. Written employment contract. The primary requirement for creating an enforceable principal-broker relationship is a written employment contract. Question 66. An arrangement that allows a mortgager to borrow additional sums in the future up to a maximum amount, secured by the mortgaged property, is called an A. Assumed loan. B. Advance costs. C. Open-end mortgage. D. Secured future mortgage. Correct answer is C. Open-end mortgage. An open-end mortgage allows for re-borrowing whenever required, without negotiating a new mortgage. The interest rate applied is the usual market interest rate which rises and falls based on market conditions. Question 67. May place a limitation, called a restriction, on the use of a property. A. A private owner. B. A developer. C. The government. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Restrictions are generally placed on property to make sure that land use is uniform and stable within a particular area. Question 68. Conveying an interest in real property through the terms of a lease is called a term interest. B. Tenancy transfer. C. Lease. D. Severalty. Correct answer is C. Lease. A contract between an owner and a tenant which provides the tenant with a tenancy is called a lease. Question 69. John is opening a new restaurant in a shopping mall, with no certainty about how much income it will generate in its first year. The type of lease offered by his landlord has the tenant paying a percentage of the gross monthly income added to a basic rent amount, called the A. Net lease, B. Percentage lease, C. Graduated lease, D. Ground lease. Correct answer is B. Percentage lease. Leases are categorized according to the way different ways rent is paid, such as percentage, gross, and net leases. The percentage lease is the kind usually used by retailers. Question 70. The purchase of a single-family residence can result in the following income tax deductions, except A. Painting the house, B. Loan points, C. Loan interest payments, D. Property taxes. Correct answer is A. Painting the house. Such maintenance costs as painting, roof patching, lawn care, closing costs and repairs are not considered deductible. These expenses can be deductions on tax return for a single-family residence. Loan interest payments, mortgage points, property taxes. Question 71. As a real estate term, setback refers to the A. Loss of a commission to a broker when a real estate transaction fails to close, B. Distance from a curb, property line, or structure within which building is prohibited. C. Distance between the front of a property and the street, D. None of the above. Correct answer is B. Distance from a curb, property line, or structure within which building is prohibited. Setback are building restrictions imposed on property owners created by governments through ordinances and building codes. Usually for reasons of public policy such as aesthetic concerns and safeguarding the environment. There are front, rear and side setbacks in most areas. Question 72. Which of the following is not necessary to create a binding contract? A. Offer, B. Acceptance, C. Recording, D. Consideration. Correct answer is C. Recording. A contract does not have to be recorded to be valid. Question 73. Paul and Arthur want to open a music store. Their friend Bob promises that if Paul and Arthur start a store, he will sell them all of the guitars they need for $50 per instrument for their first year in business. However, when they open the store 3 years later, Bob says higher demand has necessarily increased his price to $100 a guitar. If Paul and Arthur sue Bob for breach of contract, they will likely A. Win, because they cannot procure guitars anywhere else for $50 apiece, B. Lose, because such a low price for a guitar is unreasonable, C. Win, because the condition that Bob based his promise on was satisfied, D. Lose, since 3 years have elapsed since Bob made his promise. Correct answer is C. Win, because the condition that Bob based his promise on was satisfied. A condition precedent is a condition that must be met before the performing party has a duty to perform. Once the condition is met, performance is required. Here, the condition precedent for Bob's promise was for Paul and Arthur to open a music store. Once they did that, Bob's duty to sell them guitars at the price he originally quoted was triggered, and he is contractually bound to do so. Question 74. Cammie the owner sells her home to Fred the buyer for $300,000 while agreeing to finance a loan for Fred. This transaction is known as an A. Unconventional loan, B. Reverse mortgage, C. Land contract, D. HARP loan. Correct answer is C. Land contract. The Home Affordable Refinance Program, HARP, was a federal program that helped homeowners refinance their mortgages into more affordable options. HARP was intended for borrowers who might not otherwise qualify for refinancing due to factors like declining home values or limited access to mortgage insurance. Borrowers with little or no equity in their homes, or who were underwater on their loans, were encouraged to apply. HARP allowed borrowers to make changes to their mortgages, such as lowering interest rates, shortening loan terms, and changing from an adjustable rate mortgage to a fixed rate mortgage. In a land contract, also known as a contract for deed, land installment contract, or an installment sale agreement, the seller provides financing for the buyer to purchase the property, which the buyer repays in installments. Under this kind of contract, the seller retains legal title to the property, while permitting the buyer to take possession for most other purposes. Question 75. Joni owns and runs a small clothing store. After a client sustains serious injuries when she slips and falls on a wet floor in the store, the client sues Joni and the store and wins a judgment in court. The client will likely be able to collect on the judgment: A. Against Joni and the store. B. Against just Joni. C. Against just the store. D. Against the city for failing to properly regulate Joni's property. Correct answer is A. Against Joni and the store. A sole proprietorship is not legally separate from its owner. Thus, the injured judgment holder can collect against both the business and its owner Joni. Question 76. In signing an agency listing with a particular agency, the owner agrees to the following: A. Pay a commission to the agency if the agency sells the listed property. B. Pay a commission to the agency even if the owner sells the listed property himself. C. Pay a commission to the agency even if a different agency sells the listed property. D. Both A and C. Correct answer is D. Both A and C. Under an agency listing, the seller has the right to sell the property himself without paying any commission. Question 77. Most lenders apply the C's test to screen loan applicants, which include: A. Character. B. Capacity. C. Collateral. D. All of the above. A. Character. B. Capacity. C. Collateral. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Character refers to the borrower's honesty, reliability, and credit history. Lenders want to know if the borrower has a history of repaying debts on time and responsibly. Capacity assesses the borrower's ability to repay the loan. This includes factors like income, employment stability, and debt-to-income ratio. Lenders want to ensure the borrower has sufficient income to comfortably cover the loan payment along with their other financial obligations. Collateral refers to assets pledged as security for the loan. If the borrower defaults on the loan, the lender can seize and sell the collateral to recoup their losses. Not all loans require collateral, but it can be a factor for some loans, like mortgages or auto loans. If one of the components is not at an acceptable limit or if there is excessive layering of risk across these components, the mortgage will likely go unapproved. Question 78. The phrase, "it goes with the land," most aptly describes an A. Appurtenant easement. B. License. C. Homestead right. D. Contract. Correct answer is A. Appurtenant easement. An appurtenant easement burdens one piece of property for the benefit on another, such as a driveway to the street for Lot A, dominant tenement, that crosses over Lot B, servient tenement. This type of easement runs with the land, i.e., if either the dominant tenement or servient tenement has a transfer in ownership, the new owner receives the benefit, or takes on the obligation, of the easement. Question 79. A franchise agreement establishes an agency, by which the franchisee is the agent of the franchisor. B. Employment arrangement, by which a franchisor treats a franchisee as an independent contractor. C. Legal right to operate a business under a common name and marketing plan. D. Both A and C. Correct answer is C. Legal right to operate a business under a common name and marketing plan. In a franchise agreement, a franchisee pays a fee for the right to conduct a business under a common name and marketing system. There is no employment arrangement and no agency is created. Question 80. All of the following statements about the escrow process are false, except A. Only a broker can be an escrow officer. B. The escrow officer acts as an arbitrator of disputes between the real estate commissioner and the buyer. C. An escrow is completed when the escrow holder is appointed. D. An escrow agency changes from a dual agency to a separate agency when the escrow requirements are satisfied. Correct answer is D. An escrow agency changes from a dual agency to a separate agency when the escrow requirements are satisfied. An escrow agency acts as a neutral third party holding documents and funds until the closing. Once the closing occurs and all requirements are met, the escrow agency fulfills its obligations by disbursing funds and documents as instructed. While not exactly a separate agency in the traditional sense, their role as a neutral party holding assets is no longer necessary. Question 81. Gift deeds conveying title to real property can sometimes be voided by A. the grantor's debtors, B. the grantor's creditors, C. holders in due course, D. the state. Correct answer is B. the grantor's creditors. To evade creditors from attaching their assets, sometimes debtors will convey real property to friends or relatives by gift deed. Under these circumstances, there are legal safeguards which can enable creditors to have such gift deeds invalidated in court. Question 82. A second trust deed is distinguishable from a first trust deed by A. the title company, B. the date and time of the recording, C. the agreement of the parties, D. none of the above. Correct answer is B. the date and time of the recording. The key distinction between a first and second trust deed lies in their priority. A first trust deed takes precedence in the case of foreclosure, meaning it gets paid off first from the proceeds of the property sale. A second trust deed is a subordinate loan that only receives payment after the first trust deed is satisfied. The agreement between the borrower and lender will outline these priorities. Question 83. Prohibiting the posting of a for sale sign on a property in a particular neighborhood is A. not allowed, because it violates the U.S. Constitution, B. allowed, because such signs can be disruptive, C. not allowed, because realtors are an important component of the economy, D. allowed, because it applies to everyone equally. Correct answer is A. not allowed, because it violates the U.S. Constitution. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects freedom of speech, which includes the right to advertise. There might be some very limited exceptions. For example, a community might have restrictions on the size or placement of signs. But a complete ban on for sale signs would likely be considered a violation of free speech. Question 84. Which of the following refers to deferred maintenance? A. an apartment building with a leaking roof, B. an apartment building lacking good views from its windows, C. an apartment building with poor Wi-Fi reception, D. a commercial building with newly installed plumbing. Correct answer is A. an apartment building with a leaking roof. Deferred maintenance is an appraisal term relating to the physical deterioration of a building, not its lack of amenities. Failure to fix the roof could lead to water damage. Question 85. After a trustee's sale in a non-judicial foreclosure, any proceeds left over after paying off liens and foreclosure expenses belong to the A. sheriff, B. trustee, C. foreclosed upon owner, D. beneficiary. Correct answer is C. foreclosed upon owner. In a trustee's sale, the costs of the sale and the debt owed to the foreclosing mortgagee are paid first. The surplus is distributed to owners of junior interests in order of priority. The mortgagor keeps any money that's left after paying the junior interests. Question 86. A non-physical incursion into another person's property would best be described as A. nuisance, B. encroachment, C. eviction, D. avulsion. Correct answer is A. nuisance. A nuisance can be a legal term describing a situation or activity on a neighboring property, which disturbs the owner's appropriate use or enjoyment. Examples: loud noises or bad odors. Question 87. The term used when an amendment is made to a will is A. rider, B. codicil, C. devise, D. probate. Correct answer is B. codicil. A rider is often used in contracts, not wills. It refers to an addition to a contract that modifies its terms. A devise is a specific gift of real property stated in a will. Probate is the legal process of administering a deceased person's estate. which includes validating the will and distributing assets. It's not the term for amending a will. A codicil is a legal document that formally amends an existing will. It allows the testator, person who wrote the will, to make changes without having to rewrite the entire will. Question 88. Which of the following would likely not be a good defense by a tenant against an eviction? A. The landlord's notice of eviction seeks more rent than is actually due. B. The premises are infested by termites. C. The tenant just lost his job. D. The tenant reported the property to the building inspector for safety violations. Correct answer is C. The tenant just lost his job. In order to evict a tenant, a landlord files an unlawful detainer lawsuit in court. Good defenses to the eviction include the landlord asking for more rent than specified in the lease terms. The property is in violation the warranty of habitability, termites. Or, that the landlord filed the eviction action in retaliation for the tenant asserting a legitimate right, like reporting the property to the building inspector. If the court decides in favor of the tenant will not have to move, and the landlord may be ordered to pay the tenant's legal fees. Question 89. When title to a property is given to the lender as a guarantee against loan repayment, but the borrower maintains possession of the property, it is called A. Hypothecation, B. Collateral, C. Reconveyance, D. Qualified endorsement. Correct answer is A. Hypothecation. Collateral is a general term for any asset used to secure a loan. It doesn't specify whether the borrower keeps possession or not. Reconveyance refers to the transfer of title back to the borrower after a loan is paid in full. It's the opposite of what happens in hypothecation. Qualified endorsement is a term used in negotiable instruments, like checks, where the endorser limits their liability. It's not relevant to property ownership. Hypothecation describes a situation where a borrower pledges an asset, like real estate, as security for a loan, but retains ownership and possession of the asset. The lender gains a secured interest in the property, and if the borrower defaults, the lender can foreclose to recover the loan amount by selling the property. Question 90. A bank loan officer was referred a client by a real estate agent. Then, the loan officer sent the agent $100 in cash as a present. The agent should return the money because it is unlawful to accept it, under the provisions of A. RESPA, B. The Rumford Act, C. Regulation ZD. The agent can accept the money, there's no law against expressing friendship. Correct answer is A. RESPA. The Rumford Act, 1949, is a federal law addressing fair housing and isn't relevant to the exchange of money between a loan officer and real estate agent. Regulation Z is part of the Truth in Lending Act, TILA, and focuses on consumer protection in credit transactions. While it might have some overlap with RESPA, it's not the primary regulation here. RESPA prohibits kickbacks and referral fees between parties involved in a real estate settlement. A $100 cash gift from the loan officer could be seen as a veiled attempt to influence the agent's referral and would violate RESPA. Question 91. After filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, a corporation's board of directors had no plan for handling the firm's reorganization. How long from this point in time until creditors can present their own plan? A. 1 month, B. 90 days, C. 120 days, D. Immediately, since management's failure to fashion their own reorganization plan gives creditors the right to present theirs right away. Correct answer is C. 120 days. After filing for Chapter 11 protection, a firm has a 120-day window with the exclusive right to produce ideas for its reorganization. The court can lengthen this period at management's request, but will eventually pass control of the firm's affairs over to creditors. Question 92. The types of remedies for breach of contract. A. Specific performance. B. Damages. C. Lee pendens. D. Either A or B. A. Specific performance. B. Damages. Correct answer is D. Either A or B. Lee pendens, Latin for suit pending, is not a remedy for breach of contract. It's a legal notice filed with the court to alert potential buyers of a property that there is a lawsuit pending regarding the ownership or rights to that property. The two kinds of remedies in contract law are damages, which are monetary awards, and specific performance, when the court orders the breaching party to actually perform whatever it contracted to do. Question 93. Prima facie means A. First in priority, B. Primary evidence, C. Main balance, D. Principal. Correct answer is B. Primary evidence. The literal meaning of this Latin term is, at first look, or, on its face. In legal contexts, it refers to evidence or facts that are sufficient to establish a case or claim unless rebutted by the opposing side. Essentially, it suggests something is considered true unless proven otherwise. Question 94. If a deposit receipt states that a property is sold, as is, then the A. Seller has no obligation to disclose material defects to the buyer. B. Seller still has an obligation to disclose material defects to the buyer. C clause does not apply if defects are not immediately apparent. D. As-is clauses are illegal in California. Correct answer is B. Seller still has an obligation to disclose material defects to the buyer, although a seller is still obligated to disclose material defects. As-is denotes that the buyer is accepting a property with all its faults, even if such faults are not immediately apparent. A prudent buyer will consult an expert to inspect the property for flaws before agreeing to a contract containing such a clause. Question 95. The maker of a note could employ which of these legal defenses against a holder in due course? A. Duress influencing note agreement. B. Payment to redeem the note. C. Material changes. D. Either A or C. Correct answer is C. Material changes. A holder in due course, HDC, takes a negotiable instrument free of all claims. Defenses to an HDC claim fall into two categories. A. Real defense, which would include a material alteration, and could prevail against the HDC. Or, A. Personal defense, covering the other answers, which do not overcome an HDC claim. Question 96. Purchaser Pat made an offer through his broker to buy owner Oscar's home. Oscar accepted the offer, but Pat died before this acceptance was communicated to him by the broker. The acceptance is A. Binding on the estate of Pat, the deceased offeror, because the offer was accepted by Oscar, the offeree, establishing a contract. B. Not binding because the deceased offeror will be unable to enter into an escrow agreement. C. Not binding because the deceased offeror died before the offeree's acceptance was communicated to him, so no contract was established. D. Not binding because the deceased offeror cannot pay a commission to the listing broker. Correct answer is C. Not binding because the deceased offeror died before the offeree's acceptance was communicated to him, so no contract was established. If an offeror dies before receiving an acceptance, his offer terminates. Question 97. An owner advertises that he will pay a commission to any broker finding a buyer whose offer is accepted by the owner. This kind of open listing is A. Express and unilateral. B. Express and bilateral. C. Implied and unilateral. D. Implied and executory. Correct answer is A. Express and unilateral. This open listing is express because it was advertised. It is unilateral because only one party, the owner, is promising to pay a commission to any broker who finds a suitable buyer. Question 98. The legal term that is only used to describe personal property left in a will is A. Devise. B. Bequest. C. Discharge. D. All of the above. Correct answer is B. Bequest. Discharge refers to the release of a debt or obligation. It's not used to describe property left in a will. Devise is specifically used for real property left in a will, not personal property. A bequest refers to a gift of personal property specified in a will. It can include things like furniture, jewelry, vehicles, or cash. Today, the two words are often used interchangeably. Question 99. Someone who is unable to swear an oath in a legal setting could choose instead to make an A. Notarization, B. Confirmation, C. Declaration, D. Affirmation. Correct answer is D. Affirmation. Notarization is the process of having a notary public verify the identity of a signer and witness the signing of a document. While notarization can be used for some sworn statements, it's not an alternative to swearing an oath. Confirmation can have various meanings depending on the context. It doesn't specifically refer to an alternative to swearing an oath. A declaration is a formal statement, but it doesn't necessarily replace the need for an oath. An affirmation is a solemn declaration that has the same legal effect as an oath. If someone can't swear an oath due to religious beliefs or other reasons, they can make an affirmation, which carries the same legal weight. Question 100. An investor purchased a property with a price of $250,000, using financing in order to make a $25,000 down payment. 6 months later, he sold the property for $300,000. This is an example of A. Marginalization, B. Leverage, C. Down payment downsizing, D. Steering. Correct answer is B. Leverage. Leverage utilizes borrowed funds to finance the major portion of a purchase. Question 101. All of the following is true about counteroffers, except A. The offerer becomes the offeree, B. The original offer is terminated, C. Since the counteroffer is a new offer, it is best to use a separate form for it, D. The original offer is merely amended by the counteroffer, and still remains in force. Correct answer is D. The original offer is merely amended by the counteroffer, and still remains in force. A counteroffer terminates the original offer and introduces new terms. The original offerer becomes the offeree when they consider the counteroffer. While a separate form isn't required, it can improve clarity in negotiations. Question 102. An executed contract is a contract which A. is non-binding, B. has been partly performed, C. relates to capital punishment, D. has been completely performed by all parties. Correct answer is D. has been completely performed by all parties. An executed contract is one that has been fully performed. An executory contract is one that is still in the process of being performed. A contract that has been executed also generally refers to one that has been signed by the contracting parties. Question 103. 4 grown siblings can take title to property in all the following ways, except A. Partnership, B. Community property, C. Tenants in common, D. Joint tenants. Correct answer is B. Community property. 4 siblings could form a partnership and hold title to the property as partners. Tenants in common is a valid way for siblings to hold title. Each sibling owns a share of the property, and they can sell or transfer their share independently. Joint tenants. Similar to tenants in common, siblings can hold title as joint tenants. They would have the right of survivorship, meaning if one sibling dies, their interest in the property automatically passes to the remaining siblings. Community property is a legal ownership concept specific to marital couples in certain states. Since the question refers to sibling, community property wouldn't apply. Question 104. A protection clause would probably be included in an A. Purchase agreement, B. Listing agreement, C. Escrow report, D. Title search. Correct answer is B. Listing agreement. Most listing agreements contain a protection clause, also referred to as a safety clause. This clause entitles the broker to the commission on a property sold after the listing term expires, provided the broker had negotiated with the same purchaser during the listing term. Question 105. An escrow officer is generally authorized to A. Recommend the best financing options to the buyer, B. Suggest to the seller that he reconsider the payment arrangements as they seem unfair, C. Hire the new home security company for the property. D. Prepare the estimated closing statement. Correct answer is D. Prepare the estimated closing statement. The escrow officer is a neutral third party, hired to simply carry out the escrow instructions. As such, he cannot make any changes to the escrow instructions, favor one party's interests over the other, or make hiring decisions. Question 106. Landowner Larry conveys a deed to his property to Sam. The property contains coal. Sam now owns the right to extract and sell the coal, unless the A. Mineral rights were reserved by the former owner. B. Mineral rights were recorded. C. Mineral rights were previously sold to another party. D. Both A and C. Correct answer is D. Both A and C. If mineral rights were retained by the original owner or previously transferred to someone else, that owner possesses an implied easement to enter the property and extract the minerals. Question 107. For two parties to have a meeting of the minds, leading to the formation of a contract, it is demonstrated by A. Contractual consultation. B. Consideration. C. Acknowledgement. D. Offer and acceptance. Correct answer is D. Offer and acceptance. Mutual consent, mutual assent, mutuality are all terms describing when a meeting of the minds between the parties has occurred and a contract has been formed. Question 108. The salespersons at Grover Realty work strictly on commission, which they share with broker-owner Greg Grover. However, the broker deducts no withholding or Social Security tax from those commissions. The salespeople pay for the use of any secretarial, phones or copying service. They accept referrals from broker Grover which they can accept or decline. The salespersons are classifiable as A. Employees. B. Independent contractors. C. Business acquaintances. D. As described, they are not salespersons at all, but office temps. Correct answer is B. Independent contractors. Employees, as opposed to the salespersons who are independent contractors in this example, are closely supervised and receive a regular salary from which payroll taxes are deducted. They do not have to pay their employer for office supplies. Question 109. A habendum clause is usually found in A. Mortgage. B. Land contract. C. Escrow account. D. Deed. Correct answer is D. Deed. Habendum clauses, often referred to as the granting clause, are found in a deed. That clarifies the nature of ownership being transferred for real property. The seller is transferring rights to the new owner, to have and to hold. Question 110. Deeds are recorded and indexed based on A. Year of the recording. B. Grantor and grantee's names in alphabetical order. C. Location of the property. D. Legal description of the property. Correct answer is B. Grantor and grantee's names in alphabetical order. The names of each party to the transfer are used for the purposes of recording and indexing the deed. Question 111. The following is not a major participant in the secondary mortgage market. A. Ginnie Mae. B. Fannie Mae. C. Federal Reserve Board. D. Freddie Mac. Correct answer is C. Federal Reserve Board. The Fed regulates the nation's monetary policy and greatly influences the economy. The other three agencies supply mortgage funds by transferring them from U.S. regions with a surplus of funds to those areas with a shortage. Question 112. Easements can be terminated in the following ways, except A. Merger of the dominant and servient tenement. B. Prescription by the owner of the servient tenement. C. Revocation by the owner of the servient tenement. D. Release provided to the owner of the servient tenement. Correct answer is C. Revocation by the owner of the servient tenement. Unilateral revocation of the easement by the owner of the servient tenement will fail to terminate the easement. Question 113. If a borrower makes full payment on a note secured by trust deed on his property, the trust deed beneficiary must arrange for the reconveyance within A. 5 days of the payment. B. Within 30 days of the payment, C. Within 6 weeks of the payment, D. There is no time deadline to make the reconveyance. Correct answer is B. Within 30 days of the payment. The trust deed beneficiary must arrange for the reconveyance within 30 days of the payment. Question 114. During escrow, prepaid rents are usually A. Evenly credited between the buyer and seller, B. Evenly debited between the buyer and seller, C. Credited to the buyer, D. Debited to the buyer. Correct answer is C. Credited to the buyer. The buyer normally receives the prepaid rents, prorated according to the date of her property ownership. Question 115. All of the following would be considered a capital asset, except A. Inventory, B. Structures, C. Land, D. Factory machinery. Correct answer is A. Inventory. Permanent assets used to generate income are classified as capital assets, while assets sold to customers in the regular course of business, such as inventory, are not. Question 116. Writing, for deposit only, on the back of a check creates A. Blank endorsement, B. Qualified endorsement, C. Signed endorsement, D. It has no legal effect. Correct answer is B. Qualified endorsement. Writing, for deposit only, on the back of a check restricts how the check can be negotiated. It specifies that the check can only be deposited into a particular account. This is a qualified endorsement. Question 117. If a caller refuses to give their name at the beginning of a phone inquiry, the appropriate response by an agent is to A. Hang up the phone and move on to the next call, B. Interject useful information to keep the conversation going, C. Pass the call to someone else in the office, D. Keep asking the caller for his name throughout the phone call. Correct answer is B. Interject useful information to keep the conversation going. Giving up on the phone call, even if a caller does not want to provide his name for whatever reason, should run counter to the agent's training and instincts. The agent should try to maintain the possibility of forging a connection beneficial to both himself and the future client. Hopefully, the caller will decide to identify himself later, or in a second call. Question 118. A personal easement in gross. A. Benefits a person, not the land. B. Creates no dominant tenement, just a servient tenement. C. May not be assigned to a third party. D. All of the above. Correct answer is D. All of the above. A personal easement in gross is a type of legal right that allows an individual to use someone else's property for a specific purpose, but it's not connected to any specific piece of land the beneficiary owns. A neighbor may have a personal easement in gross to cross your property to access a fishing spot on the lake behind your house. A utility company might have a personal easement in gross to access and maintain power lines that run across your property. Question 119. The Uniform Commercial Code, Division 6, which pertains to bulk sale transfer of business goods, is designed to protect A. Creditors, B. Sellers, C. Buyers, D. The IRS. Correct answer is A. Creditors. The Bulk Transfer Law, UCC, Division 6, was created to safeguard business creditors. A bulk sale in this instance, also called a bulk transfer, refers to when a business sells all or most of its inventory to a single buyer, with such a sale not being part of the ordinary course of business and probably done to get around creditors' claims. Question 120. Although not authorized to do so, Agent Andrew acts on behalf of seller Stan by showing Stan's home to a potential buyer. Later, after the buyer makes an offer, Stan approves of Andrew's action. This is an example of A. Rescission, B. Ratification, C. Implication, D. Covering up. Correct answer is B. Ratification. A principal can ratify something that has been done on her behalf by another individual who assumed the authority to act in the capacity of an agent. Question 121. Jody leases a property from Sandy. although Sandy takes Jody for a tour of the property. Sandy does not mention that a large sinkhole is located at the end of the lawn, which Sandy has covered up with a tarp but not filled in. A month later, Jody's friend Jamie is visiting the property and falls into the sinkhole, breaking his arm. When Jamie sues Sandy for negligence, Jamie will probably A. Lose, because Jamie should have known that piece of land covered by a tarp represented a danger. B. Lose, because Sandy owed a duty to warn Jody, the lessee, but did not owe it to a visitor. C. Win, because Jamie was owed a duty to warn from Sandy. D. Lose, because a month had passed since the lease commenced. Correct answer is C. Win, because Jamie was owed a duty to warn from Sandy. When a dangerous condition exists when a lessor transfers the land to a lessee, the lessor owes the same duty to people visiting the land that he would have owed if he still lived on the property. So, lessor Sandy owed both lessee Jody and visitor Jamie a duty to either warn of the sinkhole or fix it. Question 122. An exculpatory clause will not insulate a broker from liability to the purchaser if it is A. Not approved by a judge, B. Not endorsed by a contract attorney, C. Against public policy, D. Regarding a property that is worth less than $1 million. Correct answer is C. Against public policy. Exculpatory clauses that try to eliminate all liability for the broker, especially if they involve fraud or gross negligence, are likely to be found void as against public policy. For instance, a clause completely absolving a broker of any responsibility for misrepresentation would likely be considered against public policy. Question 123. A real estate agent is required to choose the kind of agency relationship she is working under. A. Before the close of escrow, B. When escrow is opened, C. As soon as practical, D. When either the buyer or seller asks the agent. Correct answer is C. As soon as practical. A real estate agent is obligated to disclose the type of agency relationship they are entering into with a client as soon as practical, typically at the first substantive interaction. This ensures both the client and the agent understand their rights and responsibilities in the transaction. Question 124. The kind of lease that sets an initial rental rate, with periodic increases built in, is called an A. Step-up lease, B. Escalator lease, C. Acceleration lease, D. Periodic lease. Correct answer is A. Step-up lease. The increases in rent can be for a specific amount or pegged to a common measure of cost of living, such as the Consumer Price Index. Question 125. An appraisal is considered accurate only A. As of the date it is completed, B. During the year in which it is completed, C. Until a more qualified appraiser completes his analysis, D. Until the beginning of the next fiscal year. A. As of the date it is completed, B. During the year in which it is completed, C. Until a more qualified appraiser completes his analysis, D. Until the beginning of the next fiscal year. Correct answer is A. As of the date it is completed. The continual significance and availability of new data for an appraiser means his work can only be considered valid as of the date it is prepared. Question 126. The contract clause that typically sets a maximum amount an injured party can recover in case of a breach of that contract is called A. Rescission, B. Liquidated damages, C. Specific performance, D. Compensatory damages. Correct answer is B. Liquidated damages. Compensatory damages are general damages awarded to compensate the non-breaching party for the actual losses they suffered due to the breach. They aren't predetermined. Liquidated damages is a clause that outlines a predetermined amount of money the non-breaching party can receive as compensation for a breach. It helps avoid lengthy disputes about actual damages. Question 127. A house with a roof that slopes on all four sides is called a hip roof, B. Gambrel roof, C. Cornerstone roof, D. Tudor roof. Correct answer is A. Hip roof. A gambrel roof has two slopes on each side, with a steeper slope at the bottom and a gentler slope at the top. Cornerstone roof isn't a term for a standard roof type. A cornerstone is a specific stone laid at the foundation of a building. Tudor roofs are often half-timbered, with exposed beams and a steeply pitched gable roof. They might have some diagonal elements, but not necessarily sloping on all four sides. Hip roof is the most common type of roof that slopes downward on all four sides from a central ridge. It comes to a peak at the top and doesn't have vertical walls at the ends. Question 128. According to the rules of community property, the consent of both spouses must be obtained for the following regarding such property, except a. Selling the property, b. Leasing the property for over a year, c. Listing the property on the MLS, d. Encumbering the property with a mortgage. Correct answer is c. Listing the property on the MLS. Listing the property for sale is generally not considered a transfer or disposition of the property itself and may not require the consent of both spouses. However, both spouses would typically need to agree to the actual sale and other actions that significantly affect the ownership or use of the property. Question 129. A 4-year first trust loan for $28,000 is arranged by a real estate broker. The maximum commission he can charge under the law is a. $2,000, b. $2,800, c. $4,000, d. There is no such commission limit. The broker can charge whatever he thinks is fair. Correct answer is b. $2,800. Since the loan amount is less than $30,000, commission terms are governed by the California loan brokerage law. Commissions for first trust loans of 3 years or more cannot exceed 10% of the loan amount. For loans of less than 3 years, commissions can be no more than 5%. Question 130. Which is not a requirement for obtaining an easement by prescription? A. Open and notorious use of the property, b. Exclusive use of the property, c. Continual use for 5 years or more, d. Use hostile to the true owner. Correct answer is b. Exclusive use of the property. The essential elements of acquiring an easement by prescription are continual use for 5 years, open and notorious use, hostile to the true owner, and under the claim of right, color of title. A prescriptive easement holder doesn't usually have the right to exclude others from the land. The servient owner can still use the land as long as he doesn't interfere with the easement holder's use of the easement. Question 131. For appraisers, the present worth of benefits in the future is equal to a. Value, b. Assessed tax basis, c. Utility, d. Price. Correct answer is a. Value. One meaning of value is the present cost of benefits that will occur in the future. Question 132. Although regularly used in other states, the warranty deed is rarely utilized in California because a. Title insurance, which provides recourse against the title company, has taken the place of the warranty deed and its recourse against the grantor. b. Damages are higher under a grant deed than with a warranty deed. c. With its two implied covenants, the grant deed was designed to supplant the warranty deed. d. Laws are more favorable to the grant deed because its implied covenants run with the land, while the warranty deed's covenants attach only to the grantee. Correct answer is a. Title insurance, which provides recourse against the title company, has taken the place of the warranty deed and its recourse against the grantor. Title insurance provides promises to the buyer that the deed can be relied upon. In a warranty deed, it is the seller guaranteeing certain of the deed provisions. Insurance backed by a company is worth more than the promises of a person. Question 133. The depreciable life of residential property is a. 10 years, b. 15 years, c. 27.5 years, d. 50 years. Correct answer is c. 27.5 years. The IRS uses a modified accelerated cost recovery system, MACRS, to determine depreciation for tax purposes. Residential rental property is generally categorized in a property class with a 27.5-year recovery period. For commercial buildings, it is 39 years. This means you can deduct a portion of the property's cost over this timeframe on your tax returns. Question 134. What transfers less than an entire leasehold, with the original lessee being primarily liable for the rental agreement? A. Sublease. B. Sandwich lease. C. Residential lease. D. Assignment. Correct answer is A. Sublease. A sublease transfers possession of a leased property to a new person called the sublessee. The original tenant, who is now the sublessor, is still primarily liable for paying the rent to the owner. Question 135. When selling a foreclosed property under the power of sale clause of a trust deed, the trustee must wait 3 months before A. Publishing a notice of foreclosure, B. Publishing a notice of intention to sell, C. Recording a notice of default, D. All of the above. Correct answer is B. Publishing a notice of intention to sell. The trustee's intention to sell the foreclosed upon property requires 3 months or more of notice to the public. Question 136. Mark conveys his property to Matthew and Elizabeth. The reasonable assumption is that Matthew and Elizabeth are A. Tenants in severalty, B. Joint tenancy, C. Tenancy in common, D. Community property. Correct answer is C. Tenancy in common. Conveyance of property to 2 or more people not husband and wife will likely be judged to be a tenancy in common, unless the grantor clearly expresses a different intention. Question 137. A subdivision is A. Housing development created by dividing a parcel of property into individual lots, B. Houses in the same neighborhood that resemble each other in style and size, C. Property divided in half by a subway line, D. None of the above. Correct answer is A. Housing development created by dividing a parcel of property into individual lots. A subdivision is one piece of land divided into 2 or more pieces of land, which are called lots or parcels. Question 138. Which listing agreement is the most favorable for the listing agent? A. Open listing, B. Exclusive agency listing, C. Exclusive authorization and right to sell listing, D. Non-exclusive listing. Correct answer is C. Exclusive authorization and right to sell listing. With this kind of listing, the broker will be compensated and is entitled to the commission no matter who finds the buyer. Question 139. If a group of brokers are working to sell the same open listing, the one who will probably earn a commission is the one who A. Erected yard signs for the listed property, B. Secured acceptance to an offer from the seller and communicated acceptance to the offerer, the buyer, C. Accepted a deposit with an offer from the buyer, D. Entered the listing into the MLS. Correct answer is B. Secured acceptance to an offer from the seller and communicated acceptance to the offerer, the buyer. The broker who earns the commission is the one who has sold the property for which he has a signed offer that has been accepted by the seller, and notified the buyer of its acceptance. Question 140. In regard to tax purposes, the assessor would consider a new well installed at a farm as an A. Maintenance, B. Addition, C. Improvement, D. Personal property. Correct answer is C. Improvement. Improvements to real property are developments of land or structures on property that do more than merely replace, repair or restore the original condition. Improvements are characterized as being permanent and adding to the value of the property. Although the well is underground, the tax assessor will likely still judge it to be an improvement, raising the property's assessed value. Question 141. Any solicitation materials serving as a real estate agent's initial point of contact with a customer must include the A. Regulations of the Real Estate Commissioner, B. Agent's license identification number, C. Agent's email address, D. Property listing. Correct answer is B. Agent's license identification number. while agents should be familiar with regulations of the Real Estate Commissioner. But including them in all solicitation materials might not be necessary for initial contact. Although including an agent's email address is advisable to foster contact with potential clients, it is not a requirement. Solicitation materials might promote the agent's services in general, not necessarily a specific property listing. Many states require real estate agents to include their license identification number on solicitation materials used for initial contact with potential clients. This helps ensure transparency and identifies the qualified professional. Question 142. Which of the following is correct in its description of an agency? A. An exclusive agency listing does not require a termination date. B. Open listings must include a termination date to be enforceable. C. Multiple listings are usually net listings. D. Multiple listings most often are exclusive listings. Correct answer is D. Multiple listings most often are exclusive listings. Multiple listing groups usually fall into the category of exclusive right to sell listings, a type of exclusive listing. Question 143. Besides the interest rate, a charge affecting the cost of a loan is A. Discount points. B. PMI. C. Origination fees. D. All of the above. A. Discount points. B. PMI. C. Origination fees. Correct answer is D. All of the above. Discount rates and origination fees are collectively referred to as points. Point is short for percentage point, which is 1% of the loan amount. PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. The most common way to pay for PMI is a monthly premium, which is added to the borrower's monthly mortgage payment. Question 144. The U.S. Treasury issues short-term securities maturing in 1 year or less, which are called A. Treasury notes. B. Treasury bonds. C. Treasury bills. D. Treasury interest-bearing instruments. Correct answer is C. Treasury bills. Treasury notes are medium-term securities issued by the U.S. Treasury with maturities ranging from 2 to 10 years. Treasury bonds are long-term securities issued by the U.S. Treasury with maturities exceeding 10 years. Treasury interest-bearing instruments is a general term that could encompass Treasury bills, notes, and bonds. Treasury bills are short-term government securities with maturities of 1 year or less. They are sold at a discount and redeemed at maturity for their face value. Question 145. The seller's warranty in a listing agreement should include all of the following guarantees, except A. The seller's right to sell the property according to the agreement terms. B. The seller not being obligated to pay a commission. C. The property not coming with any undisclosed liens against it. D. The seller's description of the property being accurate. Correct answer is B. The seller not being obligated to pay a commission. Listing agreements include seller's warranties which concern the property itself, not payment arrangements regarding its sale. Question 146. The following is real property, except A. A deed to a house. B. A grove of trees. C. A gold mine. D. A swimming pool. Correct answer is A. A deed to a house. Real property refers to land and anything permanently attached to it, including natural resources like trees and mines. While a deed is essential for transferring ownership of real property, it's not the property itself. Question 147. Which statement is correct regarding promissory notes? A. Discounting a note refers to it being sold for more than the face value, or the amount still owed on the principal. B. They are the evidence of the debt. C. They are used as security for trust deeds. D. They are always used when real estate is sold. Correct answer is B. They are the evidence of the debt. Promissory notes are used as evidence of a debt. Trust deeds as security for debt. Although promissory notes and trust deeds are often used as the loan instruments, there are other choices, such as a land sales contract. Note if the word always appears in an answer option. One exception prevents it from being accurate. Question 148. In California, The Homestead Law provides protection against A. Mortgage payment liens, B. Judgment liens, C. Mechanics liens, D. Liens based on child support obligations. Correct answer is B. Judgment liens. A homestead refers to an owner-occupied property. In this state, the Homestead Law only protects against judgment liens. The protection can be attained by filing a homestead declaration with the county recorder, or by claiming the exemption after a judgment lien-based foreclosure on the homestead property has been filed. Question 149. A real estate investment trust, REIT, must invest at least of its total assets in real estate property and cash. A. 0, 25, B. 0, 5, C. 0, 75, D. 0, 99. Correct answer is C. 0, 75. REITs must also be managed by a board of directors or trustees, and distribute at least 90% of its taxable income to shareholders annually in the form of dividends. At least 75% of a REIT's total assets must be invested in real estate property and cash equivalents to comply with IRS regulations and maintain its tax benefits. Question 150. If a salesperson resigns or is discharged by his broker, the broker must return the license certificate of the salesperson within A. 3 business days, B. 10 business days, C. 1 month, D. A calendar year. Correct answer is A. 3 business days. When a salesperson-broker relationship ends, regulations often require the broker to return the salesperson's license certificate to the issuing authority within a specific time frame. 3 business days is a common time frame mandated by many states. When a salesperson becomes employed by a broker, the commissioner must be notified within 5 days.